So how many of your systems right now look like this? Normally, I would tell you all about how World of Warships is a multiplayer online game that's absolutely free to play with millions of players, that you get to take control of some of the most iconic warships in world history, and how the graphics are beautiful and has a completely revamped graphics engine and all sorts of different play styles. But I got something more important to tell you about today. New players who sign up using my link in the description below will receive an awesome starter pack to get you up and fighting right away, including the premium ship Emden, USS St. 20 Restless fire camos, 2.5 million credits, 200 doubloons, and 7 days premium time. So now that I'm done with this ad, I'm gonna go back to playing World of Warships while you go ahead and watch this video. All right, so today we're gonna talk about the pros and cons to building your own computer versus buying a pre-built. This is a subject that a lot of people usually are resistant to when it comes to the enthusiast computer space or PC gaming, because I think majority of people watching this channel are all about building your own stuff. There's a lot of reasons why you would want to, there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to, and on the other side of the coin, the same reasons why you would and wouldn't want to buy a pre-built computer. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the pros to building your own. Obviously, you get the satisfaction of choosing the parts that you want, buying it from where you want, the brands, putting it all together, firing it up, the learning experience if you're trying to learn. You get to just really kind of fill your brain with a whole bunch of the goodness of doing it yourself, which is, I think most people who would build your own computer probably are natural tinkerers, work on their own cars maybe, like to build Legos, whatever. The downside to trying to build your own right now is prices are obviously through the roof, and finding products in stock, specifically CPUs and especially GPUs, is extremely difficult because we are in the midst of low inventory and high demand because of cryptocurrencies being, once again, just through the roof. A couple of the benefits though to building your own is you know what's in there. You know what wiring's hooked up, you know what's not, you know the expandability, you know whether or not you've run SATA cables to where the other hard drives can go. So if you ever want to expand your storage, you can just plug them in. You don't have to run extra cables. You basically know every inch of the system. The downside is, if you build your own system right now, you have to service it yourself. You have to warranty it yourself. You are the warranty. So you can see that that's probably not really a con for a lot of people. For a lot of first-time builders, it might be. Let's talk about build your own. Not build your own. Let's talk about pre-built. That's what I'm trying to say. Pre-built's something people tend to push back on this channel quite a bit down in the comments section. But I think what a lot of people forget is with the amount of people watching this channel and the newcomers, especially that have joined this channel in terms of subscribing within the last year or so, are very green. They are new, they don't have a lot of experience, and so they're trying to weigh whether or not they want to build their own versus buying. Buying a pre-built computer has a lot of benefits to it. One, it has a service plan. You have customer service you can call and get tech support and troubleshooting over the phone. Two, it has a warranty, which means if something goes wrong or something dies, you have a company that will assist you in getting those parts replaced. Some companies though, however, will want you to send back the entire system. Others, tech support might walk you through taking the component out, depending on what it is. That way you can send back just the component. But there is obviously the time that you have to wait for the RMA to get it approved and send it back and wait for the parts to be replaced. One thing to consider though as a con with the entire concept of buying a pre-built computer is the fact that if it is a graphics card that you are waiting on, in terms of RMA, waiting is gonna be time consuming just like those that are doing build your own. However, one of the extreme benefits right now to pre-built is the fact that the SIs, and an SI stands for System Integrator, which are like the Origin PCs, the Digital Storms, the Exotic PC, CyberPower, iBuyPower, Digital Storm. I don't know if I said Digital Storm twice, doesn't matter. They basically get their own separate allocation from the same AIBs that you're trying to buy from through retail. So the distributors for the AIBs will have a pallet or whatever that will go to the various builders. That way they can continue to operate their business. And then they have their for retail distribution. So waiting for an RMA might not take as long with a pre-built versus build your own. Because with build your own, you can send it back to the manufacturer, but what's been kind of happening lately when people have been tweeting me, telling me about their experiences or emailing me, they'll send the part back to XYZ brand, and instead of going on a list or a waiting list or just getting sent a replacement, they're being sent refunds because they're not able to replace them or even guarantee a replacement within months right now. I've had people send back a couple week old 3080 that had like a fan go bad or something like that. And then the brand takes the card and goes, oh yeah, the fan's bad. We can't send you another one because we don't have one, so here's your money back. Whereas if this were me, I'd be like, no, send me back my card. Let me put an aftermarket cooler on there, or let me water block or something on there. Don't just take my card, because then they send it off to Taiwan or wherever it goes and you never get it back. And that's unfortunate that a lot of the brands have taken that route without even giving you the option. They just do it. So that's something to keep in mind if you're gonna do build your own. I think probably the largest benefit right now to going with a pre-built, and again, this is not a sponsored video, this is just an opinion piece, is the fact that the pricing for the components in the pre-builts are very close to MSRP. For instance, the Redux PC, which is this one right here, actually doesn't mark up the parts at all. You basically pay a $100 build fee, and then there are upsales you can do if you want to go up to a higher tier graphics card, higher tier CPU, go from an air cooler to a water cooler, whatever. You only pay the difference in price for the part. You don't have to pay markup on the part. See, a lot of SIs will handle this like mechanics do. A lot of mechanics or automotive repair places will add a 20% parts price fee on top of the price of the part. So they're making 20% of the cost of the part as profit, and then obviously the labor to R&R or repair and replace the part that's bad. So the nice thing about a lot of the SIs is because they want your business, they're not marking up the parts at all. You're just paying an extra build fee. So a lot of them right now, it's about $100 is the build fee. What we found is Phil did this specifically himself this week, and I'd already done it in the last couple weeks, is compare the price of speccing out a mid-range computer, whether it be like a 3060 Ti with maybe something like a 5600X, a B550 motherboard, like middle of the road type stuff. I know a lot of people are like, you just described a high-end PC. Well, if you look at the parts SKU and where they land, that's basically middle row. It's on average anywhere between $100 to about $300 extra versus the MSRP of the parts. Remember, we're talking about the hypothetical price that was put on the suggested pricing by the manufacturers, not retail pricing. So retail price versus the actual parts when broken out into a parts list is anywhere between 100 to 300 more depending on the tier of the parts. If you're talking like 3070s, 3080s, again, MSRP, that stretches out to about that 300. The lower end the part, it seems to be a lot closer to that $100 mark. However, if you consider the fact that a lot of the SIs right now are still not really marking up the cost, I say not really, sometimes I might add like 5%, something like that. They're not adding up or marking up the price of the parts. This might be the only way you can get the graphics card that you want, because buying one via retail right now is nearly impossible. So if you can get a 3060 Ti, or you can get a 3070, or even a 3080, in fact, Phil's friend just bought from NZXT's BLD a creator PC with a 3090. It's gonna take him anywhere between 20 to 30 days to get it. But how many of you have been waiting more than 20 to 30 days right now to get your system or your graphics card that you need to complete your system that has no graphics card sitting in there? Remember that system we showed at the start with no GPU? That's a reality right now for thousands of people out there that have built their system and literally have no graphics card to put in it. Whether you sold your old one to try and get a 30 series and then you couldn't, or you decided to build a system when you didn't realize you couldn't get a graphics card, that's the reality for many people. So here are some suggestions. If you don't have a system right now, if this were me, we're talking retail J, I'm going into the store or I'm shopping online to buy something. What I would personally do is I would buy a pre-built. The reason being, you can still get a complete one. Now, I know that takes a lot of the fun out of the whole build your own. And trust me, the last pre-built I owned was actually an Alienware Aurora back in like 2007 or 8. So we're talking almost 15 years since I've personally purchased a pre-built. But that's because for the last 15 years, I could buy the parts I wanted at availability. There wasn't an issue like we're dealing with right now, with the exception of the cryptocurrency boom that happened in 2016. So this is a new territory for a lot of people. But putting on that whole buyer hat, I would buy a pre-built because you can still get the CPUs you want, the GPUs you want. One of the cons I forgot to mention though is a lot of times you don't know which graphics card you're getting. It just says RTX 3080 or 3070, but you don't know if it's gonna be an MSI Gaming X Trio, an EVGA for the win, a Founders Edition. You don't really know, because a lot of times the SIs are just putting a tier there and they're gonna put in any card they can get that has that number on it, regardless of whether or not it's more of a baseline or a high-end card. So one of the cons I wanted to mention versus that. But I'd much rather know I have a 3080 coming of some sort than sitting around waiting for the prices to come down. Last week somebody messaged me and said, hey, did you see that the price of 3080s have now reached $2,000 at people that are scalping or selling them on Craigslist? And I replied back, have you seen they're actually $2,800 now? Yeah, right now, You can still find some for $2,000, but you're finding a lot of them for over $2,500 and as high as $2,800 for a RTX 3080. And 3090s are now approaching $4,000 to $5,000, which is absolutely ridiculous. However, like I just said, Phil's friend was able to buy an NZXT BLD with a 3090 in it. Yeah, so Phil just said that when he added up the prices individually to see if it was a good deal, because his friend was actually asking me if I would sell him a card, it was $3,200 in MSRP pricing, which you know as well as I do, that's not gonna be the reality pricing because of the fact that, well, just go Google right now RTX 3090s for sale and look at what they're going for. So the fact that they got a complete creator PC with an AMD, 5000 series, what's...
I actually forgot. I think they only have one option.
Yeah, but the creator PC basically is the upper tier of NZXT's BLD. So he got a high thread count CPU, he got probably 32 gigs of RAM and a 3090 for $3,500. You know what's funny? $3,500 for a PC, people would probably start screaming and yelling in the comments that that's overpriced and ridiculous. I think right now people would just be like, oh my God, if I could buy a PC with a 3090 for $3,500, sign me up, shut up and take my money. But that's why my recommendation, honestly, right now, if you don't have a system, is just start shopping the SIs out there. Look at the brands, look at the feedback, look at the reviews, specifically the customer service reviews. You've got videos from like Linus and Gamers Nexus where they go undercover and check how the customer support and tech support is. Go with the one that you're comfortable with, and then basically compare the pricing to what MSRP is, and then compare the pricing to what reality is. Usually the only thing you have to do to realize you're actually getting a deal with going with an SI right now is the fact of graphics card pricing. That's it. But we're really fortunate because for the longest time, when the last cryptocurrency boom happened, the SI pricing was going up linear with the GPU pricing because they were like, this is what they're going for. But I think a lot of the brands learned from the backlash that happened last time about profiteering on the pricing of scalp prices of graphics cards, especially when they get them at whatever their wholesale pricing is from the AIBs and marking them up, made a lot of torch and pitchfork mobs come after them. This time around, a lot of them are vowing to keep the pricing as close to MSRP as humanly possible because of the backlash that happened last time. If you just want to have the satisfaction of building it yourself and you don't care about the warranty because you're a power user and you just want the parts, take it all apart and put it back together. I mean, I've done that before. In fact, another thing you can kind of do to save some money on the SI if you want to go that route just to try and get a graphics card is save money on any of the upsales. Make sure it has the tier graphics card you want. And the downside is though, if you want something like a 3080 or 3070, a lot of the times you're put into like a higher bracket anyway. But don't go with like big SSDs. Don't go with top tier case and hard drives, SSDs. Just go with the basic hard drives. Go with a basic air cooler. Go with the cheapest power supply that you can on the list. Don't click anything that has an extra cost to it because that's obviously going to cut into the whole benefit of trying to get your graphics card through going through the SI route. Not only that, the fact that those parts are still readily available, SSDs, hard drives, power supplies, coolers, that stuff's not in short supply right now. So don't spend money on that if the goal is to get that. But if you have a system that looks like the one we showed at the start of this video, where it's got everything but a graphics card, well, I guess you could technically buy an SI, take the graphics card out of it and sell the rest of the parts. Or let's just be honest, you could probably buy an SI for the same retail pricing right now of the graphics card. At least you have all those extra parts for free. Sell them to your friends or whatever to make some of that money back. But if you're sitting there now with everything but a graphics card, that's kind of a shitty scenario because of the fact that you've already spent all the money on those parts. But right now, there is no end in sight as to how long the MSRP pricing, I keep calling it MSRP pricing, the retail price of graphics cards right now is not looking like it's gonna come down anytime soon. Now you've got companies like Tesla going, you can buy our Teslas now with Bitcoin, which is really smart for Tesla because cars depreciate the second you buy them, but Bitcoin continues to appreciate. So it's kind of an investment from Tesla, I guess, and that's a rant. Anyway, it's a really crappy time right now to be a PC enthusiast. But I don't think a lot of people are even considering SI when it comes to your new system because you could be sitting around for months now. I've got people that have messaged me saying that they've gone on to waiting lists from September and October of last year to get on the 30 series waiting list, and they're still waiting. So is it worth waiting the approximately 20 days that we're seeing on average for SIs to have lead time for building your system and getting it sent to you, and then having a complete system ready to game? Or would you rather sit there and still hit F5 on everything and try and sign up for all of these notification groups and these like notification squads being told when certain stuff is in stock, just for the hopes of getting that one graphics card and then still building the rest of your system. So this is where you guys chime in. What would you do right now, depending on which camp you fall in? Comment down below with whether or not you just get an SI, take the graphics card, sell the rest, just get an SI and use that computer, or continue to wait for the unicorn that is any GPU.